We spend a lot of time helping businesses in the business information and events sector with their commercial strategy. And what that means is how can they drive better revenue growth in their business? And that's things like pricing, but within pricing also packaging, tiering, things like that, go-to-market proposition and go-to-market approach, sales effectiveness, and to be honest, any other revenue growth levers there are in the business. The other thing we do is we advise investors looking at the space, helping them when they're looking at a target to buy, looking at how fast can that business grow going forward and how do you unpick the different growth levers on that to work out the growth potential of the business. So I'd say on the deal front, on the M&A front from private equity firms, the biggest topic that comes up is the AI threat to the business. So actually thinking about to what degree could AI enable fast, cheap alternatives to actually provide some of the data, for instance, that's being provided by the company today. When we're talking to companies about AI, it's a bit different actually. They do think about that, but actually they're also thinking about how do they make their company more efficient with AI? Also, how do they integrate AI into their products? Okay, and what do you do for that? Do you just keep it as no extra charge to make it better stickiness and loyalty from customers, or do you actually charge for that? And then finally, the question we're being asked is, there's quite a lot of requests these data businesses are getting for can people have licenses for the data and content to use to train LLMs of companies? And that's quite a big question. So do you want to do that? And if so, what would be the price for that? Or are you giving too much away by doing that and therefore actually hurting your own competitive position? So when we think about pricing, it's the proposition, it's the bundling, the discounting, the tiering and so on. So we do lots of work on all those things. I would say some of the topics we're hearing a lot about today is the price metric. And by that, I mean, how are you charging? And traditionally, lots of data and information businesses are charged per user. But what we and they have realized over time is that for quite a lot of companies, actually per user is not necessarily the best determination of the value being received for the products. And so actually then working with companies to try and think about what would be alternative metrics that might be more linked to value. Another topic on this would be how do you factor in bundling in new products? As you launch new products, how do you then monetize them? What kind of bundling approach do you take? And how do you make sure you get the most money for that new product, but without cannibalizing your existing revenues you've got today? They really like them, which is demonstrated, I guess, by both how many private equity investments there are in the sector today, but also how many private equity investors are sitting upstairs in the room now. I think for information events businesses, it's the recurring nature of the revenue. It's the must-have nature of lots of the data and information, how it can get really quite embedded in the workflows of companies. And if you've got a strong competitive position, then that creates a great sort of competitive moat for that business. Also, lots of growth revenue streams, such as cross-sell, upsell pricing, but also new products, new adjacencies, things like that. On the events business side, I think it's partly because actually COVID really showed that events will be here in the long term. It was a real challenge, but actually came through with flying colours. And then actually, if you're looking at events businesses, there are events businesses out there that you've got to be at. Okay, that means that exhibitors will sign up early, delegates will want to be there. I think also events business, and we heard some of this earlier on today, events businesses are thinking now much more about how do you incorporate digital and data into the event, but also how do you make it a better experience for people so you're actually providing not just more enjoyable, but more interesting and more sort of data-fueled experiences that people can have at the events.